Hi, and welcome to our Stokvel Academy episode, where we are continuously searching for information as to how can we empower our Stokvel community. Today, I have the privilege of actually having a conversation with Asanda Nontshe from Mazi Asset Management Portfolio Company. Let me just give you a brief background about Mazi Asset Management. It was started with the vision of showcasing Black talent in the financial services industry. As you know that, the financial services industry in South Africa is still mainly dominated by, unfortunately, white people. But I'm happy today that at least we're having a conversation with Asanda from Mazi Asset Management. This company was established in 2006 by the CEO Umalungelo Zilimbola. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I think the rent figures here are mind-boggling. Mazi manages over 37 billion in assets and is a recipient of various industries and performance-based awards. So we are really having a conversation with someone from a very credible, reputable asset management company in South Africa. Without further ado, I want to say welcome, Asanda. Can you just briefly give us a brief synopsis about yourself?
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity, and grateful to be invited to share, I guess, our insights as well. So yeah, thank you very much. As I said, my name, as you said anyway, my name is Asanda Nontshe. I'm a portfolio manager and at Mazi Asset Management. I'm an actuary by qualification, actually, and spent some time in the pensions space as well as in obviously asset management and banking. And also just in terms of what we do at from a Mazi perspective, we manage assets mainly for third parties, mostly whether it's individuals, pension funds, insurance companies, and so on. And we invest, with very much a vision of trying to make sure that we protect the value of the money that we've been given, whilst also trying to find good opportunities to hopefully make that money grow, especially in these turbulent times. We apply all our sort of expertise. We've got 18 investment professionals in our team, as well as other staff that look after the operations and administration of our the money that we manage. So yes, with that, thank you very much, and look forward to the conversation.
Okay. No, thanks for that intro, Asanda. And I must be honest with you. I belong to two Stokvels myself. And for the past 25 years, we've been fiddling with this thing called investment. And because I'm the one who's the loudest in a Stokvel meeting, they usually point a finger at me and say, Busi, go and search and look out who can also actually come and help us as a Stokvel to actually get involved in these asset management investment things. And a few years ago, I had a privilege of being introduced to Mazi Asset Management. And I can confidently say I belong to a Stokvel that has got an investment with you guys. As a matter of interest, are you aware of the Stokvel community just in your personal capacity, besides the fact that my Stokvel has invested with you?
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that's we whilst I'm not a member of a Stokvel formally, but we definitely aware. In fact, I think one of the things that maybe is attractive with us engaging and also wanting to kind of lend a hand is to find ways to really move the Stokvel community forward. There are so many opportunities from an investment perspective that are out there where it's really about putting our heads together and finding things that are attractive, but also where we can almost redefine and move the Stokvel community to a different level as far as the options, things that are invested into, and really with that sharing of information, I think start to build what we believe is from at least from our company motto, really building wealth that can then help to move our communities forward and be passed down to the rising generation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're quite spot on, because Stokvels, by nature, they seem to lean more on this, should I say, a much safer side of things. I'm not saying your portfolios are not safer, but your standard basic bank products. So we generally don't venture into the asset management territory. We're looking, up to people like yourself to educate us. I don't know what is Mazi asset management standpoint in terms of just pure educating, because doesn't mean that when you've got this lots and lots of money, you are wise enough to know where to invest it. What's your take on that in terms of education?
I think, thank you very much. I think, look, it's that's almost fundamental in my view, in terms of making sure that people have got information and there's an awareness about different things and options and so on. And I think maybe one of the things that I can maybe talk about or point to, whilst we are investment managers and we're not financial advisors, so we're not allowed to give advice or anything. But what I can say is that I think one of the key starting points, as we talk about, for instance, financial literacy and education, I think one of the key starting points with investing is really to set objectives and goals. It's through setting those goals and objectives that one can then determine, how long that investment period will be. So how long you have to invest, and that also determines, therefore, where one invests and how much risk one can take. So it's sometimes I think investments or financial products are made to be quite complex and so on, but it's very simple actually, and it really starts with as I say, an objective. I think also, if I talk about if I think about Stokvel specifically, I think for a long time, I mean, so certainly the perception is and maybe how they've operated is that there's a focus on saving and putting money away for a sort of a short period of time, a duration which goes to a specific point, and then it's almost then you sort of start again. Which in a way, on the one hand, it's good because there's an objective and there's a purpose. But on the other hand, I think Stokvels are very linked and connected to our communities. And so if we then take a step back and say, what do we need in our communities? Where are the issues? And what role can the Stokvels play in that respect? You start thinking about issues of youth unemployment, the inequality, unavailability of capital for small businesses. So those are sort of critical things, and also if you think about perhaps some of the in fact, I mean, I would imagine a lot of members of Stokvels are members of other investment or savings type organizations, and maybe specifically retirement funds. So you'll find that a member of a Stokvel is also a member of a retirement fund. And so unfortunately, though, one will look at their money in isolation. So the money that's in the Stokvel, you look at it as a different, it's almost like it doesn't belong to you compared to the money in the pension fund. So I think in line with then sort of maybe trying to look at how Stokvels can play a role in the community, I think the conversations that we should be having is to say, how do we mobilize the money that we're saving in the Stokvel to meet, or rather mobilize the money we're saving in the Stokvel, as well as the collective, sort of reach of the money that we are saving in other places, such as pension funds and so on, to meet the objectives or to meet the needs of our communities. Because ultimately, what are we trying to do is to move communities forward and to move ourselves forward and ensure that there's a better tomorrow into the future. And financial security is obviously a very key element of that. So I think for me, if we talk about to your question earlier, the Stokvels and education, I think one of the contributions that one can make from our perspective is to really try to shift the mindset of how we think about the role of a Stokvel, what it can do, and maybe not isolate the reach and the influence of the Stokvel only to, the money that is saved for the now, and it's really to say, as I say, what are the challenges facing our communities, and how do we mobilize all the resources at our disposal to try and solve some of those, those objectives or those challenges, as it were.
Yeah, thanks, Asanda. You've really touched on very critical points here. The objective, definitely, but not just an objective. Is it short-term, long-term? And unfortunately, Stokvels seem to be trapped in that short-term cycle. They save and share imali at the end of the year. And I'm happy that you actually elaborated on that it's better to take, or it's advisable to take a long-term view, and which is what Stokvels are generally battling with. It's almost like your microwave instant gratification kind of an approach. So yes, changing mindset, I think, is quite key. But also, just to re-emphasize what you've mentioned about what I call cross-selling. Some of the Stokvel members, in their personal capacity, they belong to retirement annuity, and we tend to battle to cross that bridge. In that I'm employed, I'm part of this fancy, sophisticated financial sort of a model. But when I get to my Stokvel, I just go in a freeze mode, So I'm just re-emphasizing and trying to say you are spot on. And this has been actually my frustration with the financial institutions, who I feel that they are not reaching enough to the Stokvel community. So I'm putting you on the spot here. I'm saying, be it as it is in terms of Stokvels, having a short-term cycle. But we are out there in the wilderness. We need people like you, Asanda, to help us cross this bridge.
No, absolutely. I think we're very prepared and sort of willing to assist, and I think I guess with the Stokvel sort of society, it does present quite a unique opportunity to reach into our communities in a way that perhaps no other, let's say, sort of organization or institution can, because there's a very sort of close link into communities, the people on the ground that are actually experiencing the hardships, especially now given now the influence or the impact of the virus, more specifically. I think going forward, what you perhaps needs to happen a bit more of is for us to, I think, maybe just increase people's awareness around what it is that they have as a starting point. You'll find that there's, in our communities, you'll have people who have got, a savings policy, an insurance policy, another one, with multiple providers because, they've been sold something at different times. And I think when you think about, financial planning and sort of financial, how you look at your finances, if I think about it, like maybe when you open a cupboard, your cupboard at home of food, you don't find that you've bought, Black Cat peanut butter and then Yum Yum at the same time because somebody just sold you
Yeah.
Yum Yum and Black Cat at different times. You'll think about it in the context of, I need one bottle of peanut butter at a given point in time for a particular reason, and you use it, and when it gets finished, you buy another one. Of course, if you're stocking up, that's a different story. But I think the point I'm making is, I think people need to not be afraid of their bank accounts or their bank statements. Sometimes I think the sort of perception is, you say you don't know what's going on, and so it just, it's too complex. But really all it is at the end of the month, get your bank statement and just have a look at what goes off. And effectively the things that you are not sure about, highlight those, and then just give yourself some time over the next month to just inquire whether you're talking to the financial provider that's providing you, or that's, where this thing's coming from, or even the banks, because the banks themselves can tell you where the debit order is coming from and so on. I mean, I know it's a small thing, but it's a very important step because it frees up potentially very critical, amounts of money, which is disposable income, really, because it's already being spent on something. I think the next thing, and I know I'm talking perhaps more at a granular level, but I think we build it up from there. The next thing is
I
really
think
for.
that just to jump in there, that's actually the most important part, because we can't understand big things if we don't start with the basics. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yes, yes. So maybe, I mean, two other things maybe just to highlight. I think the second thing for me would be, to encourage people just to conduct a very basic sort of budget. And that's really just to say, how much money do you get in? How much money do you spend? Is there anything left? How much money do you save, and so on? Again,
Yeah.
it's just not being afraid. I think there is in our community sometimes a fear because you think that you don't have a lot of money, so you just kind of live with whatever you see is remaining in your bank account. But actually, you could find that there's a lot of money that you're spending unintended, but on things that perhaps you don't intend to necessarily spend as much money on as well. And then I think if I then talk to the third maybe principle or concept, if I talk to the Stokvel itself, um, I would really, I think as a community, I would urge the Stokvels to then, as you are saving, maybe to start thinking about, as I said, some of the key challenges that one is experiencing or we're experiencing in our communities. I think maybe one of the things that I can point to is, as I was saying earlier, youth unemployment. Now, you'll have Stokvel members that are let's say in retirement funds and are looking to save money for retirement. Given the level of unemployment in the thing, given the level of unemployment in the country, especially youth unemployment, you will then find that that very pension becomes inadequate to fulfill the needs of the Stokvel member when they retire, because what will happen is, once you get that money, uh, because you've got now an unemployed child or nephew, niece, or whatever the case may be, that pension may not have been adequate for you in the first place for whatever reason. And now all of a sudden you're also required to support another person. And of course, in our families and communities, it's not like we're going to say, well, sorry, no, that's my money. We're going to help, which therefore basically means that in a few years, that very person who now is maybe not able to work for as long as they could, is unable to provide for themselves and they're in retirement. So then we need to ask ourselves, well, how can we mobilize the money that we are saving, to have the planning for December. Look, that's okay, but it doesn't really move us forward. To be honest, it's a nice thing to do, to whether it's buying food or whatever the case may be. It's very nice, but to be honest, it doesn't solve the actual problems that we have in our communities. So maybe then the question should be, how can we mobilize the money that we're saving, in addition to that, the money that we are saving in our other sort of areas, to then start creating employment opportunities for these very people who will become a burden potentially on us in the future, as the Stokvel members. So, and there, what am I talking about really is to say, I mean, just to give examples, you say maybe some of the money that we need to or that we're saving can go towards sort of encouraging entrepreneurship, where the money is used to maybe help small businesses in the community. You might find that somebody's got a really good idea, or maybe they've got a tender, small tender, but they don't have the money to buy the supplies to supply into that tender. Therefore, they can't participate. Um, you might find that there's, let's say there's housing developments, for instance, that are happening in the community, where somebody in the community could be providing or supplying the cement, but that housing, that provider or that developer will say, provide me with the cement and then I'll pay you after 30 days. But now the person who doesn't have the money in the first place doesn't have the means to go and buy the cement and deliver it, in that way. So I mean, those are very small examples. But I think in a way, what I'm trying to sort of give is a sense of maybe taking more responsibility for our future, and basically saying, let's try and move ourselves away from perhaps being consumers in the main, but being wealth creators in going forward. And that really is through the participation in economic activity. That's how then wealth is created, i.e., as I said in giving that example, the person will buy the cement for 1 rand, will deliver it for 1.50 rand, and will pay the Stokvel members the 1 rand back with maybe a 10 cents interest, whatever the case may be. So now that creates wealth, because there's money now that's sitting with both parties that have participated, and then the next time you do something similar. And similarly in our pension funds, we then be vocal and say to the pension fund trustees, we want our money to be invested in a way that will help to create employment for the people, our people, because it's our money in the first place. So I think without sort of taking the whole afternoon, but that's maybe the mindset shift that we need to have as far as the way that we interact with our money going forward.
Yeah, no, indeed, you've said a mouthful, Asanda. I like even the analogy, the black cat, peanut butter, and yum yum. And someone used to say, you only die once, but you find that people take six funeral cover policies for one person. It's so profound that you're making those small, you call them small examples, but to me they are quite big. And actually, the mindset and thinking about entrepreneurship, which is what we're actually preaching here at the Stokvel Academy. I really would like to thank you. Don't indeed feel that you've given us small examples. These are small examples, but in my view, they can actually take us to the highest level to be able to create wealth for ourselves. Our philosophy at the Stokvel Academy it is about wealth and wisdom. And you've just shared some nuggets of wisdom with us here, and to be able to face our demons. We shouldn't be afraid to face the bank statements. I think I like that one. It's quite key, because a lot of people live in Stokvels. They just save this money, but they don't really interrogate and analyze the bank statements as to where is this saving taking them to. Is this money just being parked at the bank? So I really appreciate your input. I hope in future we will be able to have another engagement with you, with your small, big examples, which are really going to make an impact. Just in closing, what can you say to our listeners? How can they get in touch with Mazi Asset Management, for further information?
Okay, great. Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity. And yes, we very willing to engage further. And I think there's more to talk about, and also maybe to make it more practical, as well as helping people to then say, wait, how do I take the next step, and where do I go? So, in order to communicate with us or find us, we're on the internet. So website is Mazi, www.mazi.co.za. You can also email us at info@mazi.co.za. And also, on the phone lines, we're available 010-001-8300. That's 010-001-8300. Thank you very much. We are grateful for the opportunity, and we'd like to just encourage members to continue to, as I say, challenge themselves as far as how they're using their money, what their money is doing for them, and really addressing the challenges that we face in our communities head on. Because ultimately, as I say, investing it's not for the fun of it. It really is something that can be a game changer as far as moving us forward and creating a better tomorrow financially for our children and ourselves, indeed, as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Asanda. Thank you. And to our viewers there and listeners, please don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel and follow us on our Facebook. And thank you very much. And stay safe and keep a safe distance. Thank you.
Thank you.